And one of my favourite stories which just popped into my mind just now was the story, which I don't think I've told for quite a few years now, was the story of the story of the donkey who was walking through the forest. And as he was walking through the forest, the donkey fell into a big hole in the forest. It was a well, but the well was dry, it had been abandoned. And so the donkey was at the bottom of the well. The donkey wasn't injured at all, just a bit bruised and a bit concerned. But he was at the bottom of the well and couldn't get himself out. He was in trouble. And so the donkey started to yell, "Ee-oh, ee-oh, ee-oh," trying to get someone's attention so he could be saved from being at the bottom of a very difficult situation. "Ee-oh," shouted the donkey. Eventually somebody heard the donkey, but unfortunately it was a very mean farmer. And the mean farmer saw the well, the dry well, saw the donkey in the bottom, and he never liked the donkey, always stealing the farmer's vegetables and grass. So he decided, so did the farmer, to, as it were, just to finish off the donkey and fill up the well at the same time. He got out a spade and started digging earth up and throwing it into the well to fill up the well with the donkey at the bottom. It was a very, very cruel and nasty thing to do. And always when we do cruel and nasty things, you always find that the bad karma comes back to bite you, as it happened in this story. Because the donkey, as soon as it realized that the farmer was trying to bury it alive, trying to kill it, the donkey shouted even louder, "Ee-oh! Ee-oh! Ee-oh!" which in donkey language means, "Don't kill me." But then the donkey fell silent. And the farmer thought he hadn't put that much dirt into the hole. He didn't know why the donkey had stopped shouting so soon, but he thought maybe he had a heart attack or maybe he just lay down. But anyway, the donkey was obviously dead. So thought the farmer. He just carried on putting earth into the hole. More and more earth, because he had to finish off burying the donkey and filling up the hole. But what the farmer didn't realize was that donkey had developed insight, had developed some wisdom. Instead of shouting and complaining when things are going wrong, which is what most people do in life, especially at a time like this, even when it's a life and death matter, instead of shouting and complaining, the donkey just stood there. And when the next shovelful of earth was thrown over its head, the donkey just shook it off, stamped it in under its feet, and the donkey was an inch higher. Another shovelful of earth, shaking it off, not complaining, stamped it in under its feet, another inch higher. And this had been going on a long time. And eventually, 2 donkey ears appeared above the top of the well. But the farmer wasn't paying any attention. The farmer didn't practice mindfulness, awareness of his surroundings, or any insight. He was a very bad man, just wanted to kill the donkey and fill up the well. So a few more shovelfuls of earth. Shake it off, stamp it in under his feet, and the donkey grew another inch closer to the escape. And soon the donkey was so close to the top of the well, he just jumped over the edge of the well and was free. But before he was free, before he ran away, the donkey decided, out of compassion of course, to bite the farmer on the backside. As I say, I can't resist this, please excuse me. They say because he wanted to remind him of his ass, to look after the donkeys instead of trying to kill them. And also to say that that's bad karma. You must remember never to be cruel to anybody in this world. And the reason that's how the donkey escaped from the well. Not by complaining, but by figuring out that whatever happens to us in life, if we're in the bottom of a well and we're being buried alive, that death is happening. It's amazing that when you don't worry, there's always things which you can do. There's ways of coping. There's ways of seeing things in a different way. And, who knows, making something out of your desperate situation. And of course, that's what's happening now in many parts of the world, when people are just focusing on the obvious, real dangers and misery and sometimes depression which comes from the situation of this COVID-19 virus. But even though it's a very difficult situation, there's always something which we can do with it. Always something which can happen. Recently, I got an email from the college where I went to as a young student in Cambridge, and they were saying that they had shut down their college as well. And of course, these colleges were so old, it wasn't the first time they'd shut down. And they were telling that in their records, the previous time they'd shut down totally because of pandemics was during the plagues in the 17th century, in 1665 and 1666. That plague just destroyed so many livelihoods, so they had to shut down the college. And at that time, one of the people at not at Emmanuel, he was at Trinity College, but up at Cambridge University, was a gentleman called Sir Isaac Newton. And he had to leave the college and go up to Lincolnshire somewhere, to what we'd call these days socially isolate. And that while he was there, in his notes, he said this was one of the most fruitful intellectual times of his life. Many of his great discoveries would obviously have happened there, when he was away by himself, alone. There's so much that we can learn when we're by ourselves. It's not only that, but I have to say that at the same time there was another fellow who was this time at the college where I was at, Emmanuel College, called John Harvard. And of course that's the John Harvard who founded Harvard University in Massachusetts, USA. And if any of you ever do visit that place in the future, and you look at the famous statue of John Harvard standing there in front of one of the buildings, you will notice just on the pedestal on which he is standing, there is it's called the lion rampant. It's an emblem, which is the emblem of Emmanuel College in Cambridge, where I studied. But one of the alumni of that college, of Emmanuel College, eventually became the Bishop of Southwark Cathedral, and he gave this lecture about the origin of Harvard University, where it actually came from. And he had all the documents there to prove his research was valid. because it was in Southwark, south of the River Thames, in London, where John Harvard's family were from. And his father was a very successful businessman. He had pubs, gambling dens apparently, and please excuse me, houses of ill repute, prostitution and stuff. And this was just south of the River Thames. And the reason why he made so much money out of that was because north of the River Thames was controlled by the Puritans, and it was part of the Diocese of Westminster. So, in brief, every Saturday night, you might say, all the people of London went over the bridges to have their merriment, because north of the River Thames you couldn't even get any alcohol. So because of that, John Harvard's family made a fortune. But maybe because of their livelihood, there were during the plagues, his whole family living in the Diocese of Southwark, just south of the River Thames, were all killed. They all died in the plague, which meant that John Harvard was the sole inheritor of all of that money. And he left England to go to the United States with all that money. And with that money, he founded Harvard University. And please excuse me, on the wages of sin. But anyway, and it was all because of a pandemic at the time.